Hello, BookTube. I mentioned recently, just the other day, that I have finally been invited, after a long drought, I have finally been invited to be part of a buddy read. Those of you who might be new to BookTube, there are quite a few new people on this channel, and some of you might be new to BookTube just in general. It used to be that I didn't have to worry about such people, and then I figured they will find what they find on BookTube first, the same way the rest of us did. They'll get shunted by the YouTube algorithm straight to the big YA channels. And that will be your introduction to YouTube, or to BookTube, and you will have the same reaction that all the rest of us did. This person seems really friendly. Some of these books are really interesting. Oh wait, these are all YA books. And then, oh wait, what exactly is wrong with this person? They're bouncing all around and screaming at the camera. But it's been pointed out to me that the same YouTube algorithm may now be showing you me instead of the big 15 booktubers, simply because of the volume of videos that I've made. The YouTube algorithm may be making me pop up more often than people who have much, much, much larger followers. I don't know that that's exactly true. Certainly in my own suggestion feed, my videos pop up all the time. I don't know if that's true with you. But one way or another, I might have some newcomers to BookTube, not just to this channel. So you might not be familiar with what a buddy read is. On BookTube, a buddy read is when it's not the same thing as a read-along. It's a buddy read is when you actually are engaging with other readers, usually over Voxer, the app Voxer, which is a free walkie-talkie app. You can you press the button, you say your piece, you let go of the button, and the record is there for the other people in your Voxer group, and they can hear it and then do the same thing. You can also type. It's massively popular. I didn't know what it was when I first started BookTube, but as an app, it's massively popular because even with the free version is still excellent, and it's an amazing way to communicate free. It's just it's not in real time. That's the one drawback, if you want to call it that, is that it's not a phone call. You leave your message, and other people hear it, and then they respond. They can respond immediately. They can respond at any length they want. But you're not talking directly to them. I myself think that makes it significantly superior to a phone call. But I'm an antisocial crank. But one way or another, in a buddy read, you decide with a group of people that you are going to read a certain book together. You're going to cover it at the same time. You're going to be reading it at the same time. And you set up a group for that book on Voxer and just chat about it. Random thoughts while reading it, random thoughts about other things, until that buddy read is over. And I don't usually get invited to buddy reads because I smell. A couple of years ago, I had a really fun buddy read for Peter Benchley's novel Jaws. And now I have been invited to another buddy read, a buddy read of Wallace Stegner's novel Angle of Repose. And we haven't started reading the book yet, and I'm under strict orders to be on my best behavior. Not in terms of the inappropriateness of my comments, but in terms of impatience. It was a big problem. I always say I don't get invited to buddy reads because I smell, but I think the main reason I don't get invited to buddy reads is because I read awful fast. I read 150 pages an hour for at least 8 solid hours every day. If you do the math on that, you realize that in the course of one day, I can read with very close attention Wallace Stegner's novel Angle of Repose. I do not need a month. I need a day. And that, a lot of people thought, well, it might be fun to have Steve along in a buddy read, but he'll be done with the book before the rest of us are even done with the first part of the reading, and what's the fun in that for anybody? I am convinced that it will be fun. I did it. I've done it before. I am accustomed to discussing books at the speed with which other people read them. In addition to everything else, I've taught books, including Angle of Repose. So I know what that's like, so I can behave myself. And I've been enjoying it, even in the run-up. We haven't actually started reading the book yet. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to roll my eyes. We haven't started reading the book yet. But I'm still enjoying the feel of this group of people. The thing about buddy reads, you establish the Voxer group, and then you just sort of get to know each other's patterns, when they're going to listen to your messages, what kind of messages they leave. Do they leave really short ones? Do they leave really long ones? Do they lurk without leaving any messages at all? That you get to know that. It's much like joining a real-life book club, where the first meeting or two, you don't really know what to expect from the other people, and then you gradually learn that. And as we've been doing that, I've been remembering what I remembered from the Jaws read-along, which is that I really love it. I really, really like it. It's the realization of something that we say here on BookTube all the time. We all say the community aspect is fantastic. That I'm reading books all day. They're a huge part of my life. And thanks to BookTube, I'm connected with other people who also are reading books, for whom also reading is a big part of their life. And with a Voxer read-along, that is brought to its ultimate conclusion. That is where you actually are reading the books in a community of people. And they're not out there somewhere in the nebulous, ether. They're right there on your phone. I like that a lot. And when I was going, I let the app go for a while, and then I checked to see if there are any new messages, and then I play them and whatnot. It's a lot of fun. And I did that yesterday. And then I got something in the mail. So I was playing around on the Voxer group, and then I got something in the mail. I got this in the mail. Those of you who live in America will recognize this, some variation of it. This is a summons to jury duty. I have been summoned to jury duty. Here in the United States, those of you who might not know, every citizen is eligible to be summoned for jury duty. Even an ex-president, even President Obama, can get one of these in the mail. And you get a date, and you have to go at 8 in the morning, and you have to sit there in the courthouse. And it's too bad if you're working that day, you have to take it off. It's jury duty. And you sit in a pool of potential jurors, and you may or may not get picked. And if you get picked for a smaller group, you may or may not get impaneled to be part of an actual jury. And if you are impaneled to be part of an actual jury, you may or may not get a long trial. Even sometimes sequestered, so that you're in a hotel with a bunch of strangers and you're not allowed to go home. It happens in all those variations. I have been through almost all of those variations in my time. I have been summoned to jury duty many, many times, despite the fact that I have the absolute bedrock objection to jury duty. Because there's a vetting process when you're part of a bigger group in a room full of people. There's a vetting process where people ask you, can you be objective? Do you know the person who is the center of the trial? If the trial is about some subject matter, has that subject ever happened to you? If it's about a home invasion, have you ever been the victim of a home invasion? That sort of thing. They do that to winnow out incompatible jurors. Even before voir dire begins, they try to winnow out the people who are obviously unsuitable for this trial. And every single time I bring up, when I'm asked, I'm not a crackpot, I don't bring it up ahead of time, but when I'm asked, I bring up the fact that I have the most fundamental objection imaginable, and I don't need to hear the details of the case. I do not believe in trial by jury. I don't believe in the whole system of trial by jury. So I am the most fundamentally voted out juror you could possibly imagine. The funny thing is, in the course of my 28 years, some lawyers and judges have thought that isn't really a problem. But one way or another, I am summoned to jury duty, and I will be going, and I don't want to. It means leaving Free to Bean. It could mean leaving Free to Bean for an entire day, which I've never done before. I don't like it at all, but there's no way around it. And when I was looking at this jury summons, I realized the one element that's missing from a buddy read. And that's to make it mandatory. So, buddy reads ordinarily happen in one way. Someone will come up with the idea of doing a buddy read of a book, and they'll think, who do I want to invite to do a buddy read? Some of you have been doing buddy reads with the same people for a long time because you've developed a chemistry that works. Some people think, what if we want here? Do we want a breadth of chemistry? Do we want a bunch of different kinds of people? And the one element that's present there that isn't present in jury duty is the element of choice. So I thought, what about a buddy read where there isn't a choice? What about a buddy read where you are summoned to buddy read a book with Steve? Wouldn't that be fun for me? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick a book, We're going to do a buddy read over the course of a month, and I am going to list down below the people who have been summoned to that buddy read. They will have to download a copy of the book, read it over the course of a month, and participate in a Voxer discussion group. So they will also have to download Voxer onto their phone if they don't already have it. All this is free. None of it is binding. There are no contracts of any kind. The only risk that you run is incurring my displeasure. So, the book that we're going to read, the buddy read that we're going to do in September, starting on September 1st, is George Barr McCutcheon's 1902 novel, Brewster's Millions, which some of you may know as the source of many, many movies. It's been made into a movie many, many times. We're going to read the original book, which is on Project Gutenberg. You can download it for free, and it is delightful. It is a delightful late summer read. It's, those of you who might not know, it's the story of a young man who inherits $1 million. Back when that meant something. But he inherits the $1 million from a deceased relative who was hated by another relative of his, who tells him, I hated the man who left you $1 million so much that I will leave you $7 million if you get rid of his $1 million in a year. You have a year to do it, and I have a bunch of conditions. You can't just give it away. You can't just overspend ridiculously on tips or anything like that. You have to get some value for your money. And if you do that, then you get $7 million. And the young man takes up the challenge, and a large part of the novels, our author was from Indiana, so slapstick humor is not exactly his forte. But they do in Indiana, they do a low key sort of back porch, wry, humorous, extended Shaggy Dog kind of humor very well. And that was an oral tradition that McCutcheon just knew left, right, and center, and tapped into. And I think Brewster's Millions is a great relatively modern example of it, because the low-key humor of the novel is how hard it is to get rid of $1 million. And then McCutcheon throws in a love interest and then gives you a twist at the end that is worth the reading. It's just as delightful now as it was when it was first written. We're going to buddy read Brewster's Millions in September, starting on September 1st. We're going to create a Voxer group, and we're going to discuss it part by part as we read along, with the goal being to finish the novel by the end of the month. So we'll split it up week by week, so that nobody gives away spoilers or anything like that. We'll do one part per week, but with plenty of other miscellaneous chat on Voxer. So if you have been summoned to this Brewster's Millions buddy read, your name will be down below. And keep in mind, it's a BookTube crime to not show up for your mandatory buddy read. And if this goes well, and of course it will, then we'll keep doing it. We'll keep the mandatory buddy read will continue, but the juror pool will change. So there you go. Just check down below. If you've been summonsed, then you must download Brewster's Millions and download Voxer, and we'll set up a group, and we'll do a buddy read in September, and we'll all have lots of fun, because it's a federal offense not to. Thank you for your time, citizens of BookTube.